Hello, this is the Blast Report podcast on all things blasting. My name is Evan Tebow with New Wave Consulting, and I want to thank all the drill and blast teams along with those supporting them who are out there on the pattern. The production team at Blast Think and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the Blast Report podcast.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about stemming and hard work, and
I think you earn respect from those you're working with, and I think you feel the respect for yourself if you do the hands-on and work your way through. And even if it's not years and years, but if you could go out and stem the holes, be on site, put the time in, the long days. This industry is a dark work ethic, and not always, but there's lots of days you have to put the time in, and not be so worried about trying to get home as getting the job done. And I think that's lost today with quite a few.
in the mindset of some people.
In the mindset, it's a job. It's not a career, and I think that kind of forms the bond that I talked about with the friendships. Is when you've worked with these people through the snowstorm or through the torrential rain, and you all stayed out there to put the time in to get the job done. You can't just walk away and go home and leave the shot half loaded. You gotta make it happen. And you might have to sleep there all night. The thunderstorm comes in, whatever it takes is kind of a lost motto, and that's what it used to always be. Whatever it takes to get the job done, I'm here.
And there's camaraderie in that, and in that shared trauma, right?
It's almost military-ish, where you're
absolutely
that shared trauma. You become very close to those people you go through that with.
There's a friend I haven't seen in quite a few years who's also at the conference this year, and it was so good to see him. And when was the last time I saw you? Well, when we were living in a hotel together in the middle of the Ozarks, and everyone's like, "Oh, I've seen that Netflix episode." I'm like, yeah, well, it's not too different. Everything closed before we even got off work, and we got evicted out of that place. And so there's just some camaraderie there. And when you go through a little of that not trauma, but that toughness, the grit,
character building, that grit building. And so I have some close friends today that we just sit and chuckle still and laugh at some of these things, but we were going to a coal mine, and there were three of us, and we were so young that we drove in, and the mine owner, these were small strip mines that had some individual owners that might be working this one small strip mine, and then he'll move 2 farms over and strip another area and move the drag line and do all these things. And this owner comes over and he said, "Where's the blaster?" And we looked at him and we said, "Well, all three of us are blasters, sir." And he said, "No, really, where's the blaster?" We said, "Really, we're all licensed blasters, sir." And all right, I guess if they sent you out here, you must know what you're doing. So he let us go about it. But the funny thing is, between the three of us, our ages, we could not have retired. We were under 65. We were using 65 for the number. Add us all together, we were under 65.
Oh, wow. So that's why he was just saying, "Where's the blaster?" Because you were all way too young.
We're all young, baby faces that show up to do his blasting.
And so you were kind of mentioning, really getting your hands dirty and the grit there on site. I think something that probably made you very successful in your career, so, up to where you're at and continue to be, is that ability to go grab the shovel. Someone told me very early on that the moment you get on a pattern, you go pick up that shovel and ask where the holes can be stemmed. It doesn't matter where, if you're a consultant or if you're the engineer, you're going to get a lot more respect the moment you get on the tall end of the hickory stick.
Sure.
Right?
You got it.
I learned that really young age. Now, so you're mentioning the really getting into the aspect of hard work and the early hours, going to the magazine site at 4:00 in the morning. You know, that scares a lot of people away from the industry. But then being able to press that button or to see the look on that face on that judge you were saying in the last episode, being able to press that button or let him press that button, there's joy in that, right?
Yeah, and I think the reality that if you're younger, to keep this in mind is you're not going to be there forever. You're getting your knowledge base. You're building character and building respect from your fellow workers. And people always respect someone who will jump in and grab the
tall end of the hickory stick. Yeah.
The hickory stick. They respect that. And like I say, even if it's not years in the making, but if you can get out and occasionally do that and help the crew, but once you get that knowledge and respect on the bench, it just makes you so much better rounded.
Absolutely. And there's even better when you go and you end up seeing the owner of a company. Everyone respects that guy who, you know, he might be running the whole company and everything, but then he comes out to the pattern and checks out things gone, and you see him pick up the shovel.
Yes.
Right? And you see that he's got the parking spot in the front of the office. But what does he do? He's the one who cleans the door with the shovel. He cleans the snow out of the front door, you know, and he's the big boss. There's a lot of other people who could have done it, but he was the one who did.
Yeah.
You know,
and the people that do that were the ones that began with humble beginnings and did the hard work, the hard manual labor to understand everyone who works for them and know each person's position.
I love when someone says they treat the janitor with the same respect as the
sure.
CEO.
And you see that all the time on LinkedIn and Facebook and some of these things. And it really hits home in our industry to think that same way and give the due respect for the driver of the truck or the person that is stemming holes. I got one more quick story for you. It just came to mind. I was really young, and I was stemming holes, and I was probably, mid 20 or 21 and maybe 22, I don't know, somewhere in that range. And I'm working with this blaster, and he ran into a situation, and he looked at me and he said, he's asking another blaster on the bench, what do you think we should do here? He looked at me and said, what do you think we should do, Mike? And I said, why are you asking me? And he said, I got to tell you something. Never underestimate anybody. Anybody can come up with a great idea. So don't just bypass the other people that you think are insignificant somewhere. Always ask everybody's opinion. And that stuck with me till today, my whole life. And I have that respect. And those who are just beginning or maybe have never even seen a shot before, but if they're out there and they can see something or pick something up that we're out there every single day, but their perspective all of a sudden, they're like, hey, I caught this over here. Did you see that overhang? Or did you see this? I just kind of caught my eye, or whatever safety tip it could be, they may have it, or a suggestion for what to do in a certain circumstance. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's critical advice, is to be able to ask the people who not only maybe get overlooked, but the person who's fresh, because of I'm sure there's some saying about a fresh set of eyes, and in the end, that's what an explosives or a blast consultant might do, is they really do get paid to just go be the fresh set of eyes on that project. You say, why would you pay for that consultant to just come over here? He only came over here for a day, right? You just paid a lot of money for this guy to come give you a 6-page report, and you didn't do anything about it. Well, it's those fresh eyes.
Exactly. And that's what I tell a lot of people too. A lot of it's not being this superior being as a consultant. It's having traveled and seen and things that you may be able to pull from. I may be able to pull from something that I saw in an underground mine that I can apply for wall control, which I've done on occasion for wall control on a highway project, let's say. And those type things that you can pull from are very beneficial. But the other key ingredient is, again, going back to our networking. If I don't know, I sure know who to call to ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go through the phone and say, yeah, I'm gonna call this guy or that guy. They're experts on this field or that field, or they may have a thought. I know they traveled to some underground mines in a different region, and maybe they saw something there. So yeah, having the fresh eyes, having seen it, and knowing who to call. Those are key items.
Thanks for coming on for another episode, Mike.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Blast Report podcast. I want to thank the team at Blast Think for producing this show, and please follow along for more episodes in the future, and share this podcast with your colleagues so we can continue to honor our industry and the people in it. Be safe and have a blast.